Hey everybody, welcome to a live stream discussion of the new movie Mother by Darren Aronofsky starring Jennifer Lawrence and Javier Bardem. Chelsea joined me for it. She's not here today. She has some work to do, unfortunately, because she had some great thoughts about this movie. I'm going to try to do her thoughts justice and steal them and pass them off as mine. We saw this last night in advanced screening thanks to our friend Tyler Ortega, mod of the channel. So thank you, Tyler. I have a live stream chat going here as normal, but I don't have it on the screen just yet because I'm going to start off with a spoiler-free review of the movie in case you haven't seen the movie, you want to see the movie, but you want to know what I thought about it in general. And I don't want anyone typing out spoilers and them showing up on the screen and then you getting spoiled over it. All right, so that's why they're not there right now. I'm probably not going to be able to pay too much attention to chat at first while I do this spoiler-free review section. But then when I open it up and discuss the movie in total, I will be more interactive. We'll have more of a discussion. But first, for anyone who's just tuning in real fast to see, hey, what'd you think of that movie? Should I go see it? This movie's really weird. This movie is it's really fucked up. And if you're familiar with Aronofsky, you probably expect it. Black Swan, Requiem. Oh, do I have the wrong mic selected? Can you guys not hear me? I'm sorry. Oh. What do you mean? I'm sorry. What do you mean that I have the wrong mic selected? Let's see. Let's see if we can figure this out. Damn it, I thought it was all good. I was having such a good time. Oh man, it sounds really bad and far away. It doesn't sound like this is the mic. That's weird. Damn it. It sounds underwater. It doesn't sound right. Okay. All right. Let's fix this. Sorry, guys. Damn it. I thought I had it all figured out. Is this better? Is this better now? Sorry. Is this good? I think I fixed it. Just waiting for confirmation. Great. Awesome. Okay. I guess I'm not going to do that whole intro again. Hopefully you heard it enough. Long story short, Chelsea's in the other room working. She has a lot of work to do. I'm going to do a spoiler-free review first, and then we'll dive deep into this fucked up movie, guys. Damn, that movie. If you're wondering if you should see it, don't see it if you don't like being disturbed, I would say. All right? It's a movie that it's unsettling throughout, and then the last part of it, I was very uncomfortable the entire time. There's a certain thing that happens, actually two things that happen, that is very graphic and disturbing. It's definitely not for a casual moviegoer. This is not a movie for someone who just likes to be like entertained by popcorn movies. This is not the movie for them. This is a movie for people who are okay being challenged by a movie, I would say. Anyone who has seen the trailer may have said, you might be thinking if you watch the trailer, I can't really tell what this movie's about. And that's because the movie is so strange that it couldn't be condensed into a trailer. You couldn't put what this movie is into a trailer and have it make sense. Okay? So, that being said, when we left the theater, Chelsea and I, we left the theater and we weren't sure if we liked it. And we started to kind of lean towards maybe not liking it. We were like, it was kind of pretentious. I maybe saw what he was doing, but I think maybe he was kind of up his own ass. And Aronofsky is kind of pretentious. His movies are very... they're not easy to watch, especially like Requiem for a Dream. So at first we were like, I don't know if I like that. But then the more we talked about it and the more I thought about it and the more we read about it, I think I love this movie, guys. I think I loved it. And I think that was what was interesting was as soon as we got out of the theater, I said,
I don't think I need to ever see that movie again. And now I want to go see that movie again. Like, I want to watch this movie again, man, because there's so many layers to it and there's so many ways to read it that it's like a book. And someone just asked, is it better than It? It's entirely different than It. It's entirely different. You can't compare them. This movie is... People have been asking if it's scary. So here are words that I would use to describe it and that I wouldn't describe it. Okay? I wouldn't call it scary, but I would call it unnerving. I would call it creepy. I wouldn't call it supernatural. People have asked me before. But I would call it disturbing, graphic. I wouldn't call it gory, except for maybe one thing. It's not like a bloody movie. I really don't want to give anything away. I'm really tap dancing around getting too many details out or saying what it's like too much, because I think that this is one of those movies that is really good for you to go into and not know anything about it. Okay? If you have any plans to see this movie, please stop watching this when I move into the spoiler discussion. Even if you love me and you just want to watch everything I do and you want to be here and support the channel, come back and watch it. Come back and watch this stream and the video after you go see the movie. This video will live on the channel. You will always be able to access it. It's fine. But please, if you want to see this movie, if you're thinking about seeing this movie, please see it without knowing anything about it, okay? Because it's such an interesting movie to experience for yourself, and then to kind of figure out for yourself that that's what made it really enjoyable for me, is just the layers to it. There are some jump scares, actually. Not a lot. I wouldn't call this a jump scare movie. As part of its like unsettling nature, you get shots where like someone's looking at something and then they turn and someone's there, and it's kind of like a jar. It's kind of jarring, okay? On a chart of 120, how fucked up 1 to 20, how fucked up was it? It gets to 20, man. I'd say it gets to 20. It's hard to think of movies that did what this one did. But if you're gonna see it, it just came out today. It literally just came out today. And yeah, it's really fucked up. And it's really, like I said at the top, it's a challenge. It's a good movie to go into. And Catherine, yes. Kind of. Yes. It's a good movie to go into and try to figure out, I guess, and see if you can. I don't know how much more I can say about the movie without spoiling it. So I'm thinking about maybe moving into the... Oh, someone asked if the acting is good. Of course the acting's excellent. Everyone just did an amazing job. The trailer shows the primary forecast: Jennifer Lawrence, Javier Bardem, Ed Harris, Michelle Pfeiffer. All four of them extremely talented actors, and they're great. They're amazing. The direction is, of course, really good. The sound design is fantastic. That's why I would recommend seeing this in theaters, just because of the sound design. Because if you watch this at home, even if you have surround sound like I do, there's no way you're going to be able to watch it at a level where you'll be able to experience everything that the sound designer put into it. So, really good, guys. Really great. I recommend seeing it if you can handle disturbing movies. If you're okay with being uncomfortable. Okay? Should I move into the spoiler section? All right? I'm going to do that. I'm going to do that now. So here we move into the spoiler section. I'm going to turn the chat on the screen so anyone watching in the future can see what people in the chat are saying. There we go. Okay. Again, please leave if you haven't seen this and you're thinking of seeing it, because you just need to go see this without really knowing anything about it. Also, the chat looks pretty small. Let's fix that a little bit. Okay. All right, guys. Wow. Again, please leave. Please leave if you please leave if you're gonna see this, because and last thing I'll say without spoilers, Charar asks, James, is it the kind of movie you could do a kill count for? No, I wouldn't do a kill count for this movie. All right. This movie. This is a big movie. This movie has a lot to say about a lot of things. So it's it's Javier Bardem and Jennifer Lawrence. They're in this house. This house is fucking huge. It's like a fortress, and it's in the middle of nowhere. Like, it's surrounded by trees. It's in the middle of a clearing. You don't know where it is. And she's fixing up the house, renovating it, and he's a writer. He's trying to figure out what to write for his next work. And Ed Harris shows up as a stranger, and he says that he's there because he was mistakenly told it was a bed and breakfast. Turns out that he's a big fan of Javier Bardem's work. And so it's like, oh, you have an obsessive fan. That's kind of creepy. And Javier Bardem this whole time is just very inviting, very ingratiating. I don't think that's the right word, ingratiating, but he's very accommodating to Ed Harris over the obvious desires of Jennifer Lawrence, who would clearly prefer to be left alone. Okay? Ed Harris shows up, kind of disruptive. Then his wife shows up after a while, Michelle Pfeiffer. And she's even more disruptive, and they start prying into the personal life, and eventually their sons show up and have a dispute over the will, because it turns out that Ed Harris is dying. And the older brother is upset about how the estate is being delved out. He ends up fighting the younger brother and ends up killing him. Or at least damaging his head, like smashing his head really bad. And Javier and Ed Harris and Michelle Pfeiffer take the injured son to the hospital and leave. Okay? Oh, Charar. Just you wait. She's left alone, and then they come back after the son has died, and Javier Bardem has invited all of their friends and family over to grieve, and it gets crazy. It gets out of control. There's so many people there, and Jennifer Lawrence is overwhelmed by all these strangers in the house. Oh, I'm very fucking sad that Chelsea's not here. God damn it. There she is in the chat saying she's so sad she can't join. Yeah, she's working real hard. But she has so many good thoughts about this movie. I'm just kind of giving a plot summary right now, and then I'll get into it. Eventually, people break a sink, and water starts spewing out, and Jennifer Lawrence finally succeeds in getting everyone out of the house, okay? Then it turns out that she gets pregnant. She wakes up, she's pregnant. Javier Bardem is inspired to write, and so he finally starts writing, and he writes this beautiful poem. And one of the things that I really loved about watching this is that when she's reading the poem, they didn't try to actually write words to convey an amazing piece of art, because let's face it, anything they wrote wouldn't be able to measure up to how amazing this thing is supposed to be. So she's reading the poem, and then she has this vision of them joining hands and the house coming to life. I forgot to mention that the whole premise of this is that this house is Javier Bardem's childhood house. It burned down. The only thing he was able to rescue was this gem, this really nice looking gem that he actually the first shot of the movie, I believe. Oh no, it's the second shot of the movie. Here's the thing. When the movie started, I made sure to note, because some movies start with things that are removed from time, right? That'll make sense later. I've come to learn that kind of movie language. So the movie begins with a couple of shots that I'm these are weird. I'm going to remember this. And so by the end, I had figured out one aspect of what this movie was doing, but definitely not the whole enchilada. So the very first shot of the movie is a woman on fire, screaming, maybe, but she's on fire. She's definitely on fire. I thought she was Jennifer Lawrence. I have some facial blindness. Chelsea informed me later it was not Jennifer Lawrence. I just assumed it was. The second shot is Javier Bardem putting a gem into a stand, a little like stand, and smiling. And then you see shots of the house changing from burnt and destroyed into like put together and good. And it ends with a shot of the burnt bed with Jennifer Lawrence in it, like changing into a normal bed, and then she wakes up and is like, "Where are you, Javier Bardem?" And that's how it starts. So they where was I? Yeah, so the premise is that this house was his childhood house. It burned down. He found this this gem, and she's been helping him restore it because it's his childhood house. So she says she's pregnant, and it inspires him to write. And so she has this imagery, this mental imagery that they show of them coming together and creating this house. And then almost immediately, he's like, "Oh, my agent loves it. My publicist loves it." And it's a really successful, great piece of work. When the time comes for her to finally give birth, she's very pregnant. It's a time jump. She's very pregnant. She's setting a dinner. And then people start showing up at his house. And they're very excited about his work. And they're asking for autographs. And they're taking pictures. And the whole time, Javier Bardem is, again, very accommodating to them. He's like left Jennifer Lawrence alone in the house, even though like she had this romantic dinner and is super pregnant, and he's out there just with his adoring fans. And then, guys, the movie goes fucking off the rails because people just keep on showing up and keep on showing up and keep on showing up. And it gets more and more insane. And then they set up a table for him to sign autographs. And then people ask him to start marking their heads with, like, mud. And then people start getting violent. And riots start breaking out. And then people keep coming to the house. And more people come to the house. And if you've seen the trailer, you might have seen the shot where she looks out the window and there's a ton of people coming at the house with flashlights. That's at this point. The house is getting filled beyond any realistic capacity. This is a giant house, and there's still no way it could accommodate all of these people coming in. They're flooding the house. They are breaking apart the house. They begin to actually break apart the house and take things from it because they love Javier Bardem so much, and stealing things. And then they start destroying the house. And then shit gets weird, man. Riots break out as though they were on the streets of a country in upheaval, a country in revolt. A rave breaks out. His publicist, played by Kristen Wiig, at one point Jennifer Lawrence walks into a room, and there are people laying on the ground with bags over their heads. And then Kristen Wiig walks down in the middle of these rows of people and casually executes them, shooting them in the head. When she goes to kill Jennifer Lawrence, she gets blown away by the U.S. Army invading. I'm not making any of this up. This actually happens. The army is there. The place is getting destroyed entirely. War breaks out. Full out war. Guns, grenades, everything. A soldier throws Jennifer Lawrence in the corner for safety and then gets shot in the head. And oh, hey Jay, what's up? Yeah, I definitely do understand the symbolism. Don't worry, I'll get to that. Right now, I'm just giving a recap. Uh, Jennifer Lawrence is rescued by Javier Bardem and taken upstairs, where remember, huge hordes of people everywhere, and they go into his study that he had previously locked up, and she finally gives birth. And then he says, the people want to see him. The people want to see the baby. And she's like, no, tell them to leave. They'll do anything that you say. Please, please, please tell them to leave. And he says, he doesn't say anything. He pushes a chair towards her and sits in it and then stares at her. And he just stares at her. And she's sitting there with her baby, and she's breastfeeding him, and you see the time go from night to day to night, possibly to day again. A lot of time passes. The whole time she's sitting on the floor with her baby, and Javier Bardem is sitting silently staring at her. She finally nods off to sleep, only to jerk awake, and the baby's gone, and so is Javier Bardem. And she runs out of the room, and he has the baby in his arms, presenting it to the crowds of people. And when she finally turns him around, he doesn't have the baby. He has given it to the crowd of people. And the crowd of people are all crowd surfing this baby. And she tries to fight her way to go get the baby. And again, this is the most graphic part of the movie, so please stop if you're easily messed up. The baby's neck snaps. And she freaks out, obviously. And everyone gets silent. And then when she finally fights her way to the front of the crowd, a woman tells her, it's the baby's dead, but there is life. He lives on through all of us, echoing earlier sentiments that Javier Bardem had said over the killed brother. And then Jennifer Lawrence sees the destroyed corpse of her baby and turns around and sees that everybody is eating her baby. Everyone's eating the baby. Yes. She starts screaming. Javier Bardem runs up to her and tells her, everything can change. You have to forgive them. Like, everything can change as long as you forgive them. And she refuses to. She calls them murderers. And then she takes glass and starts stabbing them. And after she starts stabbing them, the other very disturbing and far too graphic for a casual movie viewer scene begins. She's thrown to the ground by people who begin beating her to death. They kick her in the head. They punch her in the face. They use very gendered insults against her. And the camera stays on her. They rip her shirt open. It's very upsetting and not comfortable to watch. Javier eventually saves her. And does he or no, I think she might get away on her own. Either way, she winds up crawling into the basement and going over to the furnace that has been a recurring thing throughout the movie. And she, Javier does save her. And she, punctures some oil or something. I didn't see exactly what happened, but she spills some oil and takes Ed Harris's lighter that she had collected earlier and threatens to drop it into the oil. And Javier begs her not to. But she does. She drops the lighter, and the house blows up, and you see everyone get incinerated. The house blows up. And then her burnt corpse is picked up by an unscathed Javier Bardem, who is carrying her upstairs. And she asks, "What are you?" And I forget his exact response, but he takes her upstairs and lays her in bed and says that his job is to create. And she's like, "You never loved me. You loved how much I loved you. I have nothing more to give to you." And he says, "Yes, you do. Your love." And so she says, "Take it." And he reaches into her burnt torso and takes out her heart and crushes it in his hands and opens it and blows out the ash, and it's the gem from the beginning. So then he puts it in the stand and smiles, and the house turns back into from the burned house into a reconstructed house, ending with the shot of the burnt bed changing back into a reconstituted bed and a new actress waking up in the same exact way that Jennifer Lawrence did and asking where Javier Bardem is. End movie. Great. That's the movie. It was fucked up. During the entire... I can't describe... What I just described doesn't do justice to the last segment that begins with when the fans start showing up and asking for his autograph and taking pictures. I can't... Words, you have to see it and experience it, because I'm sure as you were listening there, sitting there listening to it, you were like, "What? There's a rave and the army's there?" But while you're watching it, it just escalates so naturally that you're like, yeah. And so during that scene, I began to realize, like, this is the history of... Well, when they're getting autographs from him, you start seeing shrines and murals to him pop up. And especially when he starts, like, putting mud on their foreheads. I'm like, oh, this guy's like a prophet to them. This is religion. And so when the wars break out and everything in there, you're like, oh, this is like the history of religion condensed down into this one thing. And so that was about what I got. I did figure from the opening shots that I made sure to remember, I did figure that this was like a cyclical thing, that it would end with, or that she had always been there somehow, right? So that was about what I walked out of the theater with, knowing. Stuff like, I had figured that out, and then stuff that I just kind of come to realize. Then Chelsea and I start talking about it, and we're like, okay, it seemed kind of pretentious. Like, I get what he's trying to do, saying, I don't know, whatever, like he's God or something, right? But then, guys, there's so many specifics to it that really make it not just a stupid, pretentious movie. It's like a very purposeful, very well done movie. For instance, while we were talking, Chelsea and I was like, man, that first half, though, like, Javier's not a very likable guy right away. He's very just kind of cold to Jennifer Lawrence. He's never very, like, he's obviously kind of ignoring her wishes in favor of these strangers that keep showing up. And it's obvious that he loves their adoration, right? So we start thinking about, like, okay, what was with the first half of the movie? What was with Ed Harris and the brothers showing up? Oh, the one brother kills the other. That's Cain and Abel, right? Yeah. And we were right. That's what the allegory is with those guys. And then that naturally led to, does that mean that Ed Harris is kind of Adam? So then you start thinking, okay, that makes sense that Ed Harris is Adam. He's the first person who shows up in their paradise, in their Eden, which is the house. So Ed Harris shows up, and he's by himself for a while, and then His wife shows up later, Michelle Pfeiffer, and Michelle Pfeiffer obviously represents Eve. And there's a lot of specific things going on here. Ed Harris, the first night he's there, he drank a lot and he's throwing up in the toilet. And when Jennifer Lawrence walks in on them, his shirt's off and she notices like an injury on his back that Javier covers up, and that's his rib. The rib has been removed because the next morning is when Michelle Pfeiffer shows up. Michelle Pfeiffer is constantly tempting Jennifer Lawrence and she takes Ed Harris into Javier Bardem's office, even though it was a place that was off guards to them, which, oh no, is my stream messed up? Oh, there it goes. Oh, sorry guys. Sorry about the little bit of lag. In case you missed that, Javier Bardem's office was said to be off guards to Ed Harris and Michelle Pfeiffer. But Michelle Pfeiffer takes Ed Harris into this forbidden place and tempts him into it just like the tree. Their kids, like I said, were Cain and Abel. One thing that I didn't pick up on that I had to read about was how the first time that there's a bunch of people over and they're just ruining the house, the only thing that finally gets them to leave is when they break the sink and water starts spewing out. And that's the biblical storm, Noah's storm. And that was the thing that God used to like reset humanity, and it resets the house and wipes everyone away. The poem that Javier Bardem writes it's on a big piece of parchment. It's just written on like a piece of parchment. And so that's essentially, I don't know if you want to say it's the 10 Commandments or if it's the Bible itself, but it's the word of God delivered on this parchment. And what's interesting is like he finishes it and he has her read it. And then as soon as she's done reading it, his publicist calls and is like, I love it. So that's the word spreading so quickly. Clearly, all of his fans who are coming to see him and asking for autographs and pictures, they are believers. They are people who want to see this prophet and who ascribe to this religion. And then when the fights and the wars break out, that's clearly religion's splintering and the problems that happen when that happens, and it leads to the whole like actual fucking war going on. Especially right now, this thought just occurred to me. It's interesting that there's war going on between the different factions of believers in Javier Bardem, and then the U.S. Army shows up, and like that's interesting because America has on occasion in the past gotten itself involved in wars that perhaps were being fought over religion. Whew. So there's all that Bible stuff. And then clearly the baby is a Jesus allegory. It is the Son of God, whereas when Javier Bardem is, or it could be, the U.S. Army could be like the Crusades, Ash. There you go. The baby could obviously be read as Jesus, and he is given to the people, and he is killed by the people, and then they eat him. They eat his body. It's the Eucharist. Eat the body of Jesus Christ. And then when she destroys the house and he resets everything, there's also an article that I read that if you've read it, you've probably heard a lot of these same things. But that's when, as the article says, I forget where it is. If anyone has a link or the name of that article, please let me know because I want to give proper credit. That's when the movie kind of dips into Eastern religions where like things are cyclical. However, don't think that it's just a biblical allegory and that it can only be read in that one way, because the cool fucking thing about this movie, man, is all the different ways that it can be interpreted. It has so many different Char. Well, I don't know. Char says, do the days that the mother sat with the baby represent the 3 days that Jesus was dead? I'm not sure because the baby wasn't dead. I don't know. But again, please don't think that it was just a allegory on religion. That's clearly like the main interpretation and main symbolism of this movie. But there are also many other ways that this can be read. one of the most surface ways that it can be read, I guess, is the artist, the life of the artist, and what it might mean to love an artist who is constantly craving the adoration of other people and fans, and how that adoration can never be enough. Javier Bardem is never satisfied by the number of people in his house being there and praising him. He's always inviting more, to the detriment of Jennifer Lawrence. And it's actually kind of interesting because I think it's interesting that Darren Aronofsky himself, I don't know when he left his wife, but he did leave Raquel Weisz or whatever her name. I don't know how to pronounce it, but he is now dating Jennifer Lawrence. And I find that interesting that as an artist, he you could maybe say wasn't satisfied with what he had and is constantly seeking a new muse, and that's the interpretation that Chelsea had, and I wish she was here to talk about it more. But it can also be interpreted as, I mean, there's a lot of like gendered things here. There's a lot of ways to read about how women are expected to be the muse for the artist that they're in a relationship with, or obviously how Jennifer Lawrence is treated by the people who tear her down and abuse her and use gendered words. She also gets like hit on by like a pickup artist. So there's a lot of stuff about gender in here. One of my favorite interpretations also is that it can just be an ecological type of reading, where the house is the earth, and Jennifer Lawrence is akin to Mother Nature. She very painstakingly takes care of the house and builds it, and takes very care to decorate it and paint it and everything. But people come and destroy it. And there are many times where she tells them, get out of my house, get out of my room, and they just laugh at her and are like, okay, yeah, it's your room, or it's your house, or I'm taking this because the poet said we can take it. And through everything that they keep taking, they destroy the house, until ultimately she destroys the house and all of them. And that could be read as some kind of like, climate change. That's the earth resetting itself. Lot of ways to read it. I believe that it was filmed with the production title of The Sixth Day, or 6 Days, or something like that, and that it was changed so that it wouldn't be obvious its biblical allegory. And I'm really happy they did that, guys, because like I said, I didn't fully understand the allegory going on until the end, and until I read a little bit more about it. And that's the part that made me like it so much, man. Just reading more about it and like finding out more and more ways that this movie means things, all the symbolism in it, and just all the ways that you can like read into it. And the title Mother is, yeah, it could be Mother Nature, it could be, I mean, obviously she becomes a mother, but yeah, she could be Mary. And don't think that like they necessarily have to retain a single role in the allegory. I forget, like some people can change, like she could be Mary at one point in the movie, but someone else earlier on. I don't think the movie's based on anything. I believe it's well, let's find out. I don't know if it's written by Darren Aronofsky. I'm actually not sure if he writes his stuff. Screenplay by Darren Aronofsky. Yeah, that makes sense, because I mean, with a director like that, kind of like an auteur filmmaking, I couldn't imagine he's just like finding these scripts that he can easily adapt into these singular visions. I see that it's getting mixed reception. It has a 70 on Rotten Tomatoes. That's not bad. I understand how it's not for everyone. Like I said, it's got that graphic shit, and it's, it's a little confusing. But I think, like, the more I think about it, the more I appreciate it, man. The more I love it. I really enjoyed this movie, and none of the characters have names. I caught that. I caught that when, at one point, Michelle Pfeiffer and Jennifer Lawrence were like, "Nice to meet you." nice to meet you. But they never said like names. And I was like, oh, none of them have names. So they're credited as Jennifer Lawrence is credited as mother, all lowercase. Javier Bardem is credited as him, capital H. And then Ed Harris is man. Michelle Pfeiffer is woman. There's oldest son, youngest brother, and then just other names. But, whew, God. Oh, hey, thank you, Accolade Dude, for the super chat. But, yeah, it's a movie that's heavy on the symbolism. It's a movie that doesn't necessarily follow a structure that you may be used to with movies. It's definitely graphic. And that whole last segment is just totally fucking insane. And I will admit that, like, when that segment begins, I was kind of annoyed because it was very similar to the previous sequence that occurred where all the mourners were there and the house kept filling up more and more crazily and Jennifer Lawrence was getting upset. And so when that started all over again with, like, his fans, I was like, fuck, man, we saw this. Like, we don't need to see it again. But then I liked how it just fucking takes it off the rails and goes far past what it had been previously. Some of the things that stick out to me are, like, when he says everything can change if you forgive them. And I wonder if that's supposed to be, like, the forgiveness of God. And maybe if she had forgiven them, it would break the cycle. Maybe every time he does this, he's asking the mother to forgive the people for killing her child, and she's never able to. But if one day she's able to, it can stop the whole cycle. I don't know. It's definitely a controversial movie. Definitely. You have a baby getting killed. That's something that no matter what movie you're watching, you can usually expect the baby to not get killed. All right? That's something that you can usually bet your money on. But here the baby gets killed and the baby gets eaten. And it's fucked up. And on a scale of 1 to 10, how graphic would you rate this movie? That last sequence is a 10, man. Like, you don't see the baby die. You kind of see, like, his, like, head flail back and you hear it. And then you see them eating parts. You see a carcass. Kristen Wiig shooting masked people in the head fucked me up, man. That was real. That sent chills down my fucking back. Yeah. The way it's shot is crazy. Everything's super close in on Jennifer Lawrence all the time. This poster that I have up here is a Rosemary's Baby's take, because, you know, that movie is similar in that. And going into it, that's all I knew was, like, it's kind of like Rosemary's Baby, right? So it has this conspiratorial feel to it the entire time. And Michelle Pfeiffer and Ed Harris maybe know something that Jennifer Lawrence doesn't. And I still don't fully understand what they knew. Because, like, when the younger brother who had killed his, or no, when the older brother who had killed his younger, is that what Cain and Abel is? I don't know exactly. But when the murderer brother runs into her later when she's alone, he's like, you love him so much you don't even know, or something like that, and then he leaves. And it's like, what does everyone know? And so with Rosemary's Baby, everyone's conspiring against her and her baby. And so I was like, did they want this baby for something? That turned out to kind of be a red herring. It kind of distracted me, but the last thing I'll say before I start talking to you guys more back and forth is I see the film received both boos and a standing ovation during its premiere at the Venice Film Festival. That makes sense to me. This movie's not for everyone, but guys, I kind of love it. All right, let's take some questions and talk. How'd you rate it on getting a heart attack? I don't know what that means. What's with the woman shooting masked people? That's just like war crimes, dude. That's just like Vietnam. It's just like the evolution of human sin. It's fucked up. Did you think it was going to be good after watching the trailer? I was into it from the trailer. I've talked to people who thought it's a dumb trailer. I thought it's awesome. I thought it looked awesome. And that one shot really stuck with me of her looking out the window and seeing the people coming towards the house with flashlights. That's the shot that cemented me like wanting to fucking see it. James, would you say there's some controversy with this movie? Yeah, man, they eat a baby. Let's see. I would absolutely love if you could do it. Okay, shouldn't have read that. I did a review on it. There's the live stream discussion just like this of it with Chelsea. It's on the channel. That's all you can get until the movie comes out on Blu-ray or DVD. I can't do a kill count while it's in theaters. That doesn't make any fucking sense. Let's see what else we got. How does it rank among the other movies you've seen in 2017? Is it the best one? So that's what, comparing it to It and Get Out pretty much. Those are three very different movies. This, guys, and this is a movie that, similar to Black Swan, I'm sure many people will say that's not a horror movie. And I already see someone saying Jennifer Lawrence says this is more horrifying than horror. Would you agree with that? Sure, yeah. But I'm the kind of guy who says that Jurassic Park's a horror movie because it is. It has horror aspects to it. Jaws is a horror movie. Get Out is a horror movie. This is a horror movie. It's not a slasher. It's not a haunted house movie, but it's you're feeling dread this whole movie, and it's a little scary. Scary is not the right word. It's unnerving. I would put it just like Black Swan, just like The Gift or The Guest. I would put those on the fringes of the horror genre. And so I can't compare this to Get Out or It. They're all extremely different movies. I love them all, and I have said this for a couple of years now. We are in a golden age of horror movies, guys. This is a great time for horror movies. I love the unique and interesting things that we're getting in this genre, whether it's It Follows or the Babadook or You're Next. Like, I'm fucking loving our current period of horror movies. It's great. Did it make you feel uncomfortable? Yes. For the last half hour, I was like, what the fuck? I strongly disagree horror movies have gone to hell. I strongly disagree with that. Please, let's not. This can't just become like a kill count request, guys. Any other questions? Is Get Out a waste of time since no one dies till the end? Like, if that's how you view horror movies, if horror movies for you means slasher, and if you only like movies where a bunch of people die, then yeah, I could see why you don't like current horror movies, or why you might not like Get Out or this or anything like that. I do not take such a narrow view of the genre, and I'm not necessarily saying that you do, Sam, who asked this question, but if you are a person who does, I don't know what to tell you, man. The genre is so much more. It's like I did my review for the Babadook for my patrons, and in it I talk about how amazing the genre is and how many different things and emotions and human experiences the horror genre can explore when you expand it past people getting killed by a murderer or pissed off spirit haunting people. Like, there's so many fucking things to do with this genre, and Mother is a great example of how you can have a biblical allegory. You know, I love it. What was the most unnerving part for me? The baby, probably, or Jennifer Lawrence getting beat. That was real rough to watch. Is it a good movie for a date? Depends on who you are and who the partner is, man. I don't know. Probably not. I'd say statistically probably not. Does this movie compare in being messed up compared to Get? I couldn't understand that. Let's see. Anyone else? Did you gasp out loud? Yes, absolutely. I think the whole theater did. Yeah, Chelsea and I had a great time. We had a great date night and discussion afterward. Yeah, this poster is intentionally like Rosemary's Baby. There are other posters out there. This is the one that I've seen on all the billboards out here, which I forget that in other parts of the country, billboards aren't really as much of a thing. In LA, they're fucking everywhere, and this image was all over it. But there are other ones. Check them out. They're pretty cool. I worry that the other images out there are kind of like tip their hat more to the what's going on. I see Javier surrounded by flames holding what looks like the earth in his hand, and Jennifer Lawrence in a very Garden of Eden looking place holding her ripped out heart. So I think that those kind of tip it too much. Like I said, I love going into movies without knowing anything. Was there any aspect of the movie you disliked or can criticize? I mean, I was criticizing things after I got out of the movie that now I don't think I would criticize. For instance, I said Javier Bardem is not likable from the start, but now I'm like, yeah, he's like Old Testament God. It makes sense that he wasn't likable. Maybe the first half's a little bit slow, but nothing too bad. It was late on a Thursday night, and I never was upset. I was never like, this is going on too long. I need to get home and sleep. Was the ending stupid to you? No, I love the ending. Even though I had figured out pretty early on or had assumed that it was going to be a cyclical thing. I still love the ending. Was Jennifer's acting good? Yeah, everyone was fucking great. Here's a criticism, possibly. Her character's kind of one note. She's kind of deer in headlights the entire time. She's everything that's going on, she just has a very like wide-eyed, like confused look, and she does it great. And she's a great actor because she's able to very quickly make you understand what she's feeling based on like subtle expressions. And I think that's basically, if you had to boil editing down to one thing, that's it. Can you convey how your character is supposed to be feeling on very granular level through very like specific nuanced things? And she does that great. Her character's a little one note, but it's an allegory. The whole movie's an allegory, so like I'm not gonna yeah, near the ending she did show more range when she's like screaming and like terrified. So and then the strength that she has when she defies Javier Bardem and refuses to give him the baby. I think that's I should definitely mention that, because that's definitely a pivot for her character that can get into all sorts of discussion about her role as a mother. Let's see, what else do we got? Do you do any movie reviews like on another channel or website? No, this is it. I hope to do more of these. As you can see, I kind of spruced up the screen for this review more than it was for it. Got the movie poster there. I got this like kind of cool header with my font. Or not my font, but a font I use. So I'm going to keep trying to improve this. I'm going to keep trying to review movies as they come out, hopefully with Chelsea whenever she's able to join me. And we'll have those reviews live on the channel, guys. Do the characters have arcs or are they static? Jennifer Lawrence has kind of an arc. The other characters are just allegories, so I would say no, not really arcs. Was it a good movie? Yeah, I loved it. Let's see, what else? Will it end up standing the test of time and becoming one of the great horrors? I think it's too weird for that, honestly. I think it's going to be a divisive movie. If you go see it and hate it, that's cool, man. Like I said, it's definitely not a movie for everyone. I think it'll probably go down as another Black Swan, which is, I think most people agree is a good movie, but, I don't think anyone's ever like, oh man, Black Swan, remember that one? Let's see. Guys, don't ask for kill counts. Not the place for it. I don't like giving numerical rankings to movies. I think that's too blunt an instrument for art forms that I'd prefer to just say good things and bad things about it. Anything else that's more specific to the movie? I see a lot of general questions, and sorry, I'll answer those in another live stream. Come to an editing live stream. That's usually when I'm more willing to talk casually. But since this is a video that's going to live on the channel as a review, I'd like to keep it pertaining to Mother. So maybe we can wrap it up real soon here. How does the use of religion in this compare to religion in other horrors? Well, it's definitely more central to it. Yeah. I don't know. All right, guys. I'm going to wrap it up here. We can talk on another live stream sometime. I have some work to do tonight, so I don't think I'll be able to. But thank you, everyone, for coming to this live stream discussion of Mother. Thank you, everyone who's watching the video in the future, for sitting through this hour-long discussion and review and recap and reaction to Mother. I really love this movie. I didn't think I loved it when I got out of it, but the more I thought about it, the more I read about it, the more I love it. I would very much like to see it again and just experience it knowing all that I know now from the start, instead of trying to figure it out as I go along, which was also a lot of fun. So, guys, if you haven't seen it but want to, sucks that you're kind of spoiled, but maybe you needed to have all that spelled out for you before you could determine rightfully whether or not you want to see it. Even if you know everything, having not seen it a second time, I can't say for sure that it's worth seeing again. I would wager it is. It's an artistic movie. It's well done. The acting's great. And the imagery is... it's been in my head all fucking day, man. And it's not just like the baby thing. It's just all of it. The whole thing is just... It sticks with you. So... And I like that. I like to be challenged. I like to be made uncomfortable. And this movie definitely does it. So... Thanks a lot, everyone, for coming here and checking it out and for watching this video. And I don't know when the next horror movie that comes out that I'll see in theaters right away is. If not anything between now and then, definitely Happy Death Day on Friday the 13th. I'm definitely going to see that, and I'll do another one of these live stream reviews. So until then, or until next time I see you guys, thanks a lot. Be good people, and, don't be dicks to each other. Bye.